Hi everyone, it's Tonya Gibbs, and today I'm going to share with you a mixed media tag process video featuring some of the new steampunk gelatos from Faber-Castell Design Memory Craft, and also their Stampers Big Brush Artist Pens and their gel mediums. So to get started, I have already pre-cut a tag. I shared with you guys earlier how I do this. I have chipboard on the back and a tag on the or manila cardstock on the front, and then I cut it with the Tim Holtz tag and book plate die. So this is a really nice size tag. Now what I'm doing here is prepping the surface. I'm going to put a little bit of gel medium on there, and then I have already tea stained some tags. I did this a long time ago. I just did a whole bunch of tags at one time. So now I'm just going to apply that to the chipboard base so that I have a really nice sturdy tag, but I love the marbled look of the tea dye. So this is just a floral spray someone has shared with me, so I have no idea who made it. This is the Tattered Angels Popsicle color, and I'm just going to spritz that generously over those white flowers and color them in. I'm making sure I keep it really highly saturated because I want a rich, dark, vibrant color. And then they'll also dry a little bit lighter than you see here. So I just want to be super generous. Now I'm going to spritz that again with some of the Heidi Swapp Gold Lame Color Shine, just for a little added sparkle. And I shared with you guys on Facebook a few weeks ago that I had made these little clay pieces, they're feathers. I purchased a mold off of Etsy, and I'm not even sure where I got it from, but you guys can take a look and see if you can find it. But this is just one of those little candy molds, and I'm painting it up with the residual ink that's left on my desk there. And then I'm also going to add a little bit of color to my mat with the black licorice gelato. I'm going to spritz it to wet it. I'm going to spritz it with the Gold Lame Color Shine, so it gives it a little bit of sparkle. And then on this larger feather, I'm going to just paint that black licorice color onto it. That's going to give it a little bit different look than the other. You'll see all these layers of colors kind of come together in the final tag, but I wanted each feather to have a unique look, so I'm going to paint them up just a little bit different. And the gelatos are so easy to work with. They're very creamy, like pigment sticks, and you can use them straight out of the stick. They're highly concentrated, or you can dilute them for a little more transparent look. And I love how when mixed with this clay, it turns this ashy color. It's not a true black. So now to give a little bit more definition to my feathers, I'm going to take a little bit of that ink that's on my desk there, and I'm going to rub it into that feather. It appears black on video, but you can actually still see the purples peekabooing through in real life. So it's kind of hard to tell in video, but I'm going to do that to all of those little feathers there. And again, just repeating that process of putting that licorice down and wetting it with the Color Shine, and then painting it onto my little clay pieces. Now, when I spritzed that particular feather with water, you can tell that that purple just kind of popped through. Now this is a little owl clay piece that I made. All of these were made with air dry clay, but this mold is actually a Martha Stewart jewelry mold. So check out the Martha Stewart section of your jewelry craft and hobby stores. So I've painted it with the black licorice as well. And now I am going to bring out my tag again. This is the Black Cherry Gelato. It's from the Steampunk collection, and it looks black here, but whenever you blend it out, you'll notice the purple color come to life. It's a really rich purple, almost like a night color. I love it, especially combined with this tan tea stained tag. It just really pops that tag out a little bit. To add a little bit more shadowing and vignetting around my tag, I'm taking that black licorice gelato, and I'm just going to use a moistened paper towel there and blend that into the purple, and that's just going to give that purple an even deeper look around the edges. I'm going for the goth look here. I'm not a big fan of Halloween, but I wanted to do something along the themes of Halloween. So my tag has a little bit of a dark look to it, but you'll get it when you see my sentiment. So this is my go-to script stamp. If you have a script stamp in your stash, go for it, because I don't even know if this is still available. This is made by Stampendos. I bought it ages ago. So what I've done is I've used my Stampers Big Brush Artist pen to color up that stamp. The nice thing about these stamps is that, or these ink products, are that they go on blendable on a prep surface, but they dry permanent. So you notice that I spritzed that stamp with a little bit of water to get it to melt. Well, what I wanted to do, listen to me. What I wanted it to do was I wanted the color to run just a little bit, because this is gothic, it is grunge, and I wanted it to have that grunge feel to it. Another thing I really like about these pens is you can also color on metal, which you saw me do a few minutes ago. Now I'm using that pen to color up the edges of my tag. I will worry about the back later in the video. So this is a piece of black cardstock that I cut with a Tim Holtz Movers and Shapers Labels die. It's the mini labels die, and I'm just going to use my white Jelly Roll pen to doodle out some little outlines around the tag label. And then I'm going to add my journaling to this. And the journaling says, if your dreams don't scare you, then they aren't big enough. So I'm just going to use that Jelly Roll to put that on there, kind of like a chalkboard. I loved the gothic look of this tag. The label, it just with those points on it and the brackets, it just kind of had that really nice goth look to it to me. I don't know. Anyway, so you notice that I colored on my hand with the Jelly Roll. If my Jelly Roll was picking up some of that pigment from the cardstock and it was not wanting to cooperate, and I think it's almost empty actually. So what I did was I colored on my skin to take the oils from my skin and just eliminate some of that stuff on the tip so that the ink would flow evenly. Now I have this Viva Precious Metal Gold paint. It's kind of like a enamel based paint, and I've just dry brushed some of that right over the top of my owl. That's going to give him a little bit more depth. Then I'm going to seal the whole thing with a little bit of that gel medium from Faber-Castell Design Memory Craft, and then I'm also going to use that gel medium to apply some flat back black pearls to his eyes, just to give him a little more detail. So the gel medium it takes a while to dry, but it will actually help those little enamel dots to stay in place and not come off the tag in the future. So now, my little owl, look at how much depth he has just from 2 layers of color. He's just gorgeous. So I'm going to put him to the side to dry, and I'm going to start working on my feathers now. Again, I want to seal him up really well with this gel medium. And when I apply the gel medium, some of that gelato lifts off the clay, but that's okay because it gives it even more of a grunge look, and it adds some depth to that. I don't know if you guys saw it on camera or not, but I did spritz the entire tag with a little bit of that gold lame color shine. Now I'm going to seal up my tag with this gel medium. All my inks and everything have completely dried on this tag before I did this step. I like to work with my wet mediums first, give them an opportunity to air dry on their own, and then that way I'm not having to run the heat tool as much. So that's a tip for you guys when you kind of have an idea of where your project's going to go. So now I'm just going to finish sealing up this tag, the cover, with this gel medium. What this is going to do is it's going to give me another prep surface, but it's also going to protect everything below from being lifted if I choose to do any more stamping or coloring. So it's kind of like giving yourself that opportunity to erase. So now I'm taking my floral spray, and my leaves are falling off, but no worries. I like to pick that kind of stuff off anyway and put it where I want it to be. So this little vine, what I'm going to do is anchor it down with the hot glue, but if you noticed, I put some of that gel medium on there too, just in case that hot glue loses its bond with all these other mediums, because hot glue is kind of picky as to this type of surface that it likes to adhere to. So I use it to anchor as a temporary anchor, but I also you're going to notice that I'm going to be pulling out that gel medium and also some E6000 for some of these other pieces. Now I've decided that my feathers needed a little more life to them, so I'm taking my Versa ink pen, coloring just the tips, and then I've sprinkled a little bit of gold embossing powder. This is my go-to gold. It's Queen's Gold from Ranger. Uh, I think it's been renamed the Princess Gold, but you'll have to check that out whenever you decide to purchase it if you have it. Any gold powder would work though. So now I've taken a flat filigree piece, and again, remember, hot glue does not stick very well to metal, but it can be a temporary bond in order for me to be able to get everything in place. So I've just taken some E6000 glue here, and I've put some down at the bottom, and I'm also putting some over the top. And that E6000 is going to hold my little clay piece to my jewelry. Because the hot glue is just really not going to bond to clay or jewelry. Now, the matte medium or the gel medium would hold it in place, but I needed it to dry a little bit faster, and I needed a little quicker bond. You could also use something like glossy accents if you wanted to. Now, when I buy my E6000, I do not even bother buying those big tubes anymore because they do tend to dry out. So I just get that little pack that has 3 of the small tubes in it, and I find that I'm much more successful in keeping it without clogging it up and being able to use all of the product. Now I'm just taking some of those craft feathers. I've had these in my stash for eons, but I know they still sell them. And I've trimmed them down so they're a little bit smaller, and now I'm just going to tuck them into my little spray here. What I'm trying to build out is a dream catcher. Since my theme is more on your dreams and scaring you, I thought with it being towards Halloween, I would use that more, you know, gothy feel for my quote. So I wanted to make a nightmarish type thing because, you know, if your dreams aren't scaring you to death, and I'm going to tell you some of mine have, then, you know, maybe they aren't big enough. So what I'm doing is taking a dream catcher so I can catch those dreams from that nightmare. And, you know, it's sort of a metaphor, I guess. So anyway, I am using these are those little leaves that fell off of the floral spray when I wet it. I'm just going to apply those back in and then also work in my little gold tip feathers and just keep with the rule of thirds in the sense that I'm keeping one at the top, one at the bottom, one in the middle, and they all look a little bit different so that they give some interest to this as well. It's going to be really hard to see in video, but up close, this tag is just amazing. It sparkles from every direction. So now I'm just going to work some of those little leaf pieces back in too to kind of as filler to fill in those little holes you see in the floral spray. And again, keeping with the rule of thirds, I have one there on the top, one at the bottom, and one over on the left underneath the owl piece. So I notice my owl is just really wanting to stay crooked for some reason. I think it's because I have him mounted on the stem of that floral spray. So I'm just you're gonna find that I'm fudging with him, but it's because he's not dry yet, and the mediums that I use to put him down are really wet, so he's sliding, and I'm trying to keep him in place. So again, I finished off the bottom of my tag with just a little remnant of black lace, and I'm gonna tuck in a few more of those feathers. The feathers were a lot like the glitter. They were getting everywhere in my room. As you can see them all over the place. My dog was even sneezing at some point, I think. So feathers are messy. Be careful. So now I'm going to take a little bit of that gel medium and I'm going to apply it to my work surface over there. And these are mica flakes from Stampendous. And I'm choosing a copperish gold medley. It has a little bit of silver, gold, and copper in it. So what I'm doing is I've applied some of that gel medium onto my paintbrush. And then I'm using the back of the paintbrush to pick up the mica flakes, and then I'm using the back of the paintbrush to kind of work them down. Now, when the gel medium is wet, it is got a milky color to it, so it does affect the look of the mica flakes. That kind of dulls them a little bit. But once the gel medium dries, they sparkle just like brand new. So it's a great way to apply your mica flakes. They're making a comeback. Everybody's using them now. I've had these in my stash for a while. But to me, the mica flakes sort of represent the stars in the night sky, or they also represent your dreams just flying through that dream catcher there. So I'm just going to scatter them around kind of like chunky glitter. Just putting them here and there and adding that little spot or pop of color throughout my tag. I'm putting some on my little feathers down at the bottom. You know, again, if you add all of that sparkle to the top, you kind of want to add some down in the bottom as well. It just kind of keeps things really balanced looking. I'm also looking for ways to hide transitional areas, like where things start and stop, especially around the base of my feathers going into my dream catcher, and then along that edge of that lace on the corner. I really don't want to see where the elements start and stop, but I don't want to add additional filler to this because it gets too bulky. So the mica flakes, since they're large, gives me that opportunity to cover that space. And the gel medium is going to hold them there for life. It really seals them on there very well. So now I've decided to finish off the top of my tag with a little We Are Memory Keepers large eyelet. I set that with my Crocodile, and now I'm going to add a little bit of black acrylic paint. This is from Apple Barrel, and it's just called Jet Black. You can use whatever you have in your stash. I just like to finish off the back of my tags with a little bit of paint. It just kind of helps keep them clean a little bit, gives them a little better area, and an opportunity for me to do some journaling or write a message if I decide to share. Now, one of the things that people have been asking me a lot lately is what do you do with these tags after you've made them? Well, I use them as my artist trading cards. When I send racks to people, or I run into people that are in the crafty world that, you know, like maybe if I go to a crop and there's going to be someone there that follows me or whatever, I share my tags with them. So that's what I do with them. Sometimes they end up on the face of a card, or sometimes they also end up as an embellishment cluster on layouts. Just depends on what I'm doing and what the intended purpose was. These are really nice embellishment clusters if you're doing these 3D canvases. So what I've done now is I've taken some of that bridal tool in black, and I want it to be grungy. I don't want it to be perfect. So I've threaded it through my little eyelet there, and I've hit it with that heat gun, and it just melts it. And then I've taken my scissors and ripped it, so it's really nice and grungy. Now I'm going to take that Stampers' Big Brush Artist pen and just do another layer over the top of my metal piece. I noticed that, you know, once it's dry, it's permanent, but what I noticed was that me touching it before it was dry, I'd lifted some of that color off. And this also gives me the opportunity to touch up any areas where the glue has seeped out and make the glue black. So now I'm just going to take that precious metal and just put one more little coat over my owl. He was just, I guess, from me touching it, it had lifted some of that color off. So I'm adding it back. And then I decided that feather down in the bottom was just a little too dark, so I've added a little bit of gold to it too. Now I'm going to take just a piece of scrap paper and use it as a mask, and I'm going to flick some of those gold flakes from that paint on my desk, and then I'm also going to flick some of that Tattered Angel spray all over my tag. So here's the finished look of my tag. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me during this process video. I hope you've learned some new techniques and along the way. As always, there will be a detailed product list on my blog with some photos that you can really get in and take a look at on the blog as well. So that link will be down below in the description box. Thank you again for hanging out with me and watching this video, and thank you for your sweet comments you guys have been leaving me lately. And as always, if you enjoyed this, please share it.